Welcome once again to PHI at Work. And today's webinar is a look inside PHI Americas new A&P apprenticeship program. And I will get started with the presentation now. Joining us today will be Zach Noble, HAI's Director of Maintenance and Technology. He will be moderating questions at the end of the presentation from our guests. Zach is a highly experienced pilot in both rotorcraft and fixed-wing aviation. He holds an ATE, a CFII, and of course, very appropriate for today's session, he is an A&P IA. So we're looking forward to having Zach join us toward the end of the presentation. And then main event, we have John Ellyson from PHI, and he is the Director of Maintenance for their FAR Part 135 operation. Joining John today also is Justin Babin, PHI Inc. Maintenance Training Standards Manager. Welcome to you both. All right, just very briefly, just so those of you who have not attended one of these webinars, just a quick logistics for asking questions. You do not need to wait until the end of the webinar to ask a question. If you look on your panel, somewhere along there, you should see a questions tab. You can just go into that questions tab, insert your question, direct it to a particular individual if you'd like it to go to them, or just keep it general. And we'll do our best to answer those questions, routing them through Zach to our guests today. Also, at the end of the webinar, if you do miss this webinar, if you come on late, the webinar will be posted on rotor.org, and you can find recordings of that usually within 1 day after the webinar. All right, so I'll go ahead and have John and Justin join me here to get started. All right, John.
Hey, good afternoon, Chris.
Justin, welcome aboard. We're really looking forward to your presentation today. So I'm going to go ahead and jump off camera, and I'm going to go ahead and hand you the controls here. Just bear with me one moment. Okay, there you go, John. I'm handing the controls over to you now.
All right, so if I can just pull up the PowerPoint here, give us just a second.
If you have any issues, I'll be able to jump in there and help you out. And then for now, I'll go ahead and come off screen and take it away, guys. Look forward to it.
Perfect. Looks like it's working. Looks like I got the first screen up. So thanks, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us here today. Thank you, HAI, for hosting this event. Really wanted to get out in front and introduce to you basically two things. One of them is PHI. I'm not sure if anybody's ever heard of PHI before, for those around the world or listening here at home in the US. A little bit about myself. I'm the Director of Maintenance for the 135 Air Carrier. I have overall responsibility for the maintenance organization in PHI Americas, which is everything in the Western Hemisphere as far as oil and gas goes. We have a separate business unit, which is called PHI Health, which is our air medical division. That has a director of maintenance that operates on a different AOC. Ed Sangarinas, our director of maintenance, is for PHI Health. And then for international operations, everything other than the Western Hemisphere for oil and gas is Director of Engineering and Airworthiness. His name is Will Garing, and he's based out of Nelson, New Zealand. So a little bit about me. I'm headquartered here in Lafayette, Louisiana. This is where our 145 repair station and most of our operations occur here in the Gulf of Mexico. This is where our corporate office is. I'm not sure how most people started in their aviation career. I began my 32+ year career at PHI in 1988 as a non-licensed mechanic here in our 145 repair station in Lafayette. In about June 1991, I became a certificated mechanic. I actually was an apprentice mechanic, started stripping parts in our what we call the strip shop at the time. Basically from the bottom up, and I've gone through several different areas of PHI. Became certified in 1991, became a lead mechanic shortly after in March of 1997, transferred to Air Medical Group as a lead mechanic in 2007, and then I was promoted to a lead or promoted to a maintenance instructor in 2014. So in 2015, I became the director of maintenance for PHI's 135 operation here in the Gulf of Mexico. So that's a quick rundown on who I am, where I've started. This company and this industry has offered me some pretty unique experiences. I've traveled the world. I've gone over to, I've been in the Middle East. I went to Saudi Arabia. I've been to South America, all over the United States. Got to see all the nation's parks. I've done wildland firefighting. I've done aeromedical, some utility work with PHI. And I also got to go to Antarctica and spend about a month down there working on some of our 212s that we were having some issues with down on the ice in Antarctica. So pretty good experience. Got a lot of tread left on my tires, and hopefully I can keep it going for quite a bit longer. And then with me, I have Justin Babin, who's our maintenance training standards manager, and I'll go ahead and let Justin introduce himself a little bit.
Yeah, so my name is Justin Babin. I am currently the maintenance training standards manager for PHI Americas. I began my career with PHI about 8 years ago, fresh out of A&P school. Just got my certificate. I worked as a line mechanic for quite some time, both night and day mechanic. From there, I spent a little time moving around. I went to the other end of the world from John, where we operated some 92s in the Arctic Circle in Barrow, Alaska, and took a position in safety for a short time, and then went through maintenance management, and then now I'm here. And with my position as maintenance training standards manager, I serve as the program manager for the A&P apprenticeship program.
Yeah. Thanks, Justin.
Thank you, John.
Yep, thank you, appreciate it. So just a little bit, the overview of PHI. I'm gonna go through a PowerPoint, and then we'll get into a little bit of the information on, sorry, I was too far out of range. Justin saying, get on camera. Go over basically who we are, and then we'll go over the program itself as far as why we decided to start the program up, and what's our goal going forward. So we'll talk more about that here in a little bit. So like I said earlier, we have basically 3 business units: oil and gas, aeromedical, and technical services. Technical services is basically, doing third-party works and customer work, stuff like that, which is very limited at this time. So some of the first that we've done here at, oops, went too far. Hang on one second. Some of the first here at PHI, we were the first to reach 11 million flight hours, and we were the first to reach every previous million-mile milestone as we went along over the years. We were first to develop a standard for operations, the EOC condition, so enhanced operational control, which was adopted by the FAA as industry standard and best practices. We were first to introduce satellite tracking, which automatically updates aircraft position in the Gulf of Mexico. The further the customers wanted to go offshore, the further it got, or the harder it got to do tracking of those aircraft. So now we have satellite tracking offshore. We were first to implement a fully integrated safety management system, and we continue to work and strive for improving our safety culture here at PHI. We were the first civilian contractor in Antarctica. You can see in the picture there on the right-hand side, we've got an A-star with a bunch of penguins around, Imperial penguins around the aircraft. Those things are pretty good sized birds. They're 2.5 feet tall. When you can't really get real close to them, but pretty good sized bird. Pretty impressive. We were the first to equip all of our aeromedical fleet with night vision goggles. That was a commitment to our customers, to our crews, to our team members. That came out of an accident where we had a 407 flying along at night. We figured out real quick that he just had a C-fit, real dark, no moon, just flew it right into the ground. So we figured out real quick we didn't want to ever experience that again, so we went in and completely outfitted all of our aeromedical aircraft with NVGs. We first introduced ADS-B and rig approach into the oil and gas operations here in the Gulf of Mexico. Everybody's familiar with ADS-B now. It became a requirement beginning of this year, 2020. And rig approach is something in the Gulf of Mexico where they can actually fly to within a quarter of a mile. They can program it into their FMS, the flight management system on the aircraft of the S-92s. And they can actually fly to within a quarter of a mile, and I think it's 200 feet above deck to that heliport offshore. And that's, you know, that's impressive. It's hands off. One of the pilots told me that pilots are optional at this point, right? So all he has to do is monitor to make sure they can get from that quarter of a mile away to the heliport offshore. So that's impressive. PHI Safety Board. We just started. We are implementing a PHI Safety Board. We're going to lead safety across the enterprise, define our safety culture, no matter where we're at in the world. We're going to identify the initiatives to mitigate and eliminate our risk around the world. So the safety board is going to be at our executive level, working with the leadership of the company and each business unit. So we'll have a representative working with those folks. Our commitment to safe operations is to increase in efficiencies and decrease downtimes with ADMS, which is Aircraft Data Monitoring System, and also with our Line Activity Monitoring System, our LAMP program. The ADMS is important for us here on the maintenance side of our organization because this is where we can predict our maintenance on the aircraft. We can be proactive with the maintenance on the aircraft. We download the hum systems on all of our aircraft are equipped with hums between every flight, and then we can take that information and trend the data on it, and we can take proactive approach to the health of our aircraft and replace components, inspect the airframes prior to a component failure. So we invest a lot into these programs that we have here. And then we're pioneering the real-time hums software in our S-92s, working with a Metro Aviation up in Shreveport, Louisiana. The real-time hums is a pretty interesting tool that we're using today. We basically have a catalog of 7 systems that can give us a failure or an indication of a failure in flight. Let's say it's as simple as a chip light or something as a low oil pressure on your transmission. It'll send up a message on your ICAS page, which is here in the middle on your multifunction display of the cockpit of the S-92. And what it'll do is it'll also alert our comm center, and it'll populate on the computer monitor at the comm center station. And when the pilot sees that he has a caution light or something like that, or a low pressure indication, he can ask that comm center spec to verify that he doesn't have any secondary issues. And at that point, that comm spec can drill into his book, his manual, drill down and look at it and say, there's no secondary indications, continue as per the flight manual. Or if there is some secondary indications, he can just say, there are secondary indications, plan accordingly. And it's ultimately up to the pilot and the crew of that aircraft to make those airworthiness decisions at that point. So it's just there to give additional information. So here you can just see a couple pictures of the real-time hums, the ICAS page here in the middle. This is our comm center in the lower right-hand side, and you can see his satellite imagery of the Earth, flight tracking here on this monitor here. And then this is for our communications panel here, and this page right here is where the ICAS page or he can drill down into the information. So we have a couple of commitments to our safe operations. We've developed a series of industry-leading safety initiatives, including our Destination Zero, which is really the backbone of our culture here at PHI. It empowers every employee to stand up, speak out, and take action. Everybody has a voice. If somebody walks in and the culture here at PHI, if I see Justin doing something that isn't in alignment with our culture, our best practices, every employee is empowered to stand up and speak out and take action on it. And I think it's a very healthy program that we have here. It happens, frequently. It could be as simple as the way you're crossing the street. It could be as simple as getting in and out of a company vehicle, or if you see a pilot not flight planning correctly, or if you see proper hover height, or if you see maintenance not using the proper stands, overextending themselves, leaning too far, not wearing some gloves during his working around firewalls and stuff. That's where our Destination Zero really kicks in.
As simple as it sounds, it's probably one of our most effective safety programs that we have.
Yeah. Thanks. Life-saving behaviors, which establish effective, actionable, and clear lines of acceptable and unacceptable behaviors. So we started looking back at a history, probably the last 40 years, 50 years within PHI, and trying to identify 10 causes of a behavior that has caused serious incidents, accidents, and death. So out of those 50 years of going back and researching the data, we came up with a list of 10 life-saving behaviors that we use every day. And it's actually, we have little cards that's built into our employee IDs. And it's as simple as always perform an uninterrupted 360-degree walk around. Always verify critical maintenance tasks are inspected. Simple things like that, and we communicate, we educate our employees on these. So life-saving behaviors is it's part of our Destination Zero program. Working on life-saving thinking. This is where we really get into it's the next phase in our safety culture. This is really where we get into how does the brain work and why do people do what they do. There's a Dr. David Eagleman out in the neuroscience world who writes some pretty interesting books. We're working with him to understand the brain and how it impacts our decision making. So if you guys get a chance, I would highly recommend that you go out and read his book, watch some YouTube videos on him. It's pretty impressive guy. Founding member of Heli Offshore, and we're also co-founder of the AMOA, which is the Air Medical Operators Association. So here you can see some of our geographic footprint, where we've been in the world recently, where we've operated, where we are operating. Started out in the United States, Gulf of Mexico, anywhere really from Galveston, Texas to just south of New Orleans, Louisiana, which is the Gulf of Mexico operations for us. We also operate down in Trinidad, Alaska. You can see that we're not there currently, but we have been there. We have over 80 bases across the United States for air medical work. You can see Antarctica. We left Antarctica in 2018. But we held that contract for almost 20 years. You can see Ghana over in Africa, Cyprus, Israel, Saudi Arabia, and then you can see in the South Pacific over in Australia, New Zealand, Papua New Guinea, the Philippines, those areas. So PHI has overcome challenges in the industry. I think 2020 has been one of those years where nobody expected to see what we saw. We came out January of 2020, things were looking pretty good. February 2020, things were looking pretty good. And then something come along in March of 2020 that really snuck up on the industry, snuck up on the world. And I think everybody's aware that's COVID-19. So that really changed our world. It changed our economy. And we're learning to deal with COVID-19 through the 2020 year and probably it looks like going into 2021. So we're continuing to learn about it, understand it, and how do we control it. PHI has successfully weathered this industry challenges, emerging from each downturn with a stronger industry leading position. And I think that's important because it makes us stronger. Every time we get challenged and we put our backs up against the wall, if we got to change, you know, if you're not changing, you're gonna die off, is the way I think of it. So you're constantly looking at efficiencies, better way of doing things. And these uncertain times challenge us, and I think it makes us better. So right now, these numbers aren't exact because it changes by the day, but you can see right here, but basically in the PHI organization, we're around 600, 650 mechanics. In oil and gas, you know, you can, in the Gulf of Mexico, I have about 162 mechanics today. I have about 85 technicians, sheet metal avionics, and A&P mechanics in my repair station here in Lafayette. And then my training center, I have 5 A&Ps here in the training center, as well as just a maintenance training staff. So a lot of our maintenance activities, you know, because the customers want to fly the aircraft all day long, you know, the aircraft have to be ready at 6 o'clock in the morning and be available till 6 p.m. Or 7 p.m. depending on sundown. So most of the maintenance activities occur at night here in the Gulf of Mexico. Here is a picture of a 407. You can see the mechanics are putting blades back on a 407. This is after one of our, I don't know, one of our many hurricanes here in the Gulf of Mexico that we had this year, which was unreal. I think we had 6 hurricanes that hit the Gulf Coast and impacted what we do. And it wasn't just storms, it was actual hurricanes. So pretty challenging year to go along with COVID. 6 hurricanes, several major storms during this time. What's interesting to know is the maintenance team that we have here at PHI, when we do this, we remove blades, we stack the aircraft in hangars, or we fly the aircraft out of harm's way. Every hurricane evacuation that we performed this year, not an aircraft was damaged during the evacuation, and not an employee was injured during the hurricane evacuation. So I think that speaks volumes about our culture here at PHI. Everybody has a voice to Destination Zero. If something isn't right, they stop, they have a conversation, and they figure out what's the best path forward. And these are just a couple of pictures. This is Houma, Louisiana. Maintenance doing an inspection in the evening, right at sunset. I'm trying to show how awesome it is to be out there and working on the aircraft. This is AW139. The mechanic was doing fixing a Hums accelerometer on the tail rotor gearbox. So I just so happened to be there and catch it at the right moment, which is pretty unique. We should just have just a couple more pictures here. Come on. Yeah, same aircraft, different shot. And this right here is one of our hangars over at Houma Ramp, Houma, Louisiana. You see we got 2 92s, an H-145, and an AW-139 in the background. So we have full capabilities of being able to perform heavy maintenance on our aircraft every night under a well-lit hangar. The floors, everything looks neat and orderly. This is one of our 92s at sunrise, getting ready for departure to go offshore, all tied down. Every aircraft that remain outside every night are tied down and secured, and then pre-flighted by the mechanics in the morning. And then the pilots are capable at that point just to get in, receive the aircraft logbook, receive an airworthy aircraft, and fly offshore and perform the missions for us. There we go. And some of our technical services, part of that was our National Science Foundation, where we work down in Antarctica. Like I said, I spent about a month down there working out at McMurdo Base, McMurdo Station. Pretty unique experience, once in a lifetime opportunity. Those guys worked there in Antarctica for 18 plus years, and they really did an excellent job of providing the same service that we would expect here in the Gulf of Mexico. In our repair station, our MRO, this is our Lafayette facility, our headquarters here. From this little building here in the front is our administration, our corporate side of the house, and everything in the back that you see here is our 145 repair station, maintenance, repair, and overhaul center. This is our 135 operations here, where we fly for operational aircraft for day-to-day offshore support. Some of our capabilities is in the Airbus, Bell, Leonardo, Sikorsky, General Electric on the engines, Rolls-Royce, Safran's, and Pratt & Whitney's. I forgot to put the Pratt & Whitney in there, but that's some of our services that we provide. In our repair station, full complimentary paint shop. So our guys prep and paint the aircraft here locally. When we get a new aircraft from the OEMs, we will decide whether or not we'll let them do the paint jobs or we'll complete the aircraft ourselves in our repair station. 90% of the time, we complete the aircraft here in our repair station. And this is just one example of one of our air medical aircraft over in Kansas City that we did a completion for and a repaint of that aircraft. So that's the end of the PowerPoint presentation. What I'd like to do now is I'll kind of go over our A&P apprentice program, give you a highlight overview of it, and then as soon as we get done with this, we'll go into some questions. So the program is designed to be a career path in order to develop and prepare and provide on-the-job training while these individuals are pursuing A&P certification. What we tried to do is, that's the way I started at PHI 32 plus years ago, was through the apprentice program. During this downturn, I wanted my A&P mechanics to be worrying about airworthiness of the aircraft, being focused, not having to do additional duties, you know, servicing water washed bottles for fresh engine rinses. I wanted my guys to be really focused on the aircraft themselves and the airworthiness of the aircraft. So we wash our aircraft every day because of the salt environment that we live in, the interior, the exterior, and now with COVID, which we really didn't foresee, we're disinfecting the aircraft at the end of every flight day as well. So there's a lot of additional duties that I felt were taken away from the mechanics' time and really crunching the A&P mechanics to try and get all this done in their daily routine. So we got together, myself, Justin, my director of HR, you know, we're trying to figure out some solutions, what we can do better. And we decided to dust off the A&P apprentice program. So we really started brainstorming, having a couple of conversations around it. And that's when we decided, let's go ahead. Let's get into it. Let's start seeing if there's some interest in the A&P apprentice program. So we started talking to our guys. What would you have preferred? You know, would you have preferred to get paid to learn how to be an A&P mechanic, or would you have rather have gone to school? And it was really a 50-50 mix. A lot of guys said, you know, I went to Embry-Riddle, or I went to this A&P school, and it was the best thing for me. I'm glad I did it. And some guys are like that. Some guys, like me, wanted to go down a different path. They had a family they had to take care of immediately, and they couldn't afford to go to A&P school. So they worked part-time, tried to go to A&P school, in the military, different paths in order to get that A&P certification. So this right here allows these guys to go through, work on our aircraft, work within our A&P apprentice program to work towards their A&P certification. One thing I've made extremely clear to these guys is this is not a career path for you to be a helper your whole life, right? So there's a sunset on the program itself where these guys need to understand 3 to 4 years, you should have your A&P certificate. If you don't have your A&P certificate in that 3 to 4 years, it's time for you to move on to a different career because you're not motivated to become an A&P. And I'm not, I don't want to keep you here just to wash aircraft. I want to motivate people to get their A&P certification so that they can be part of our team as we move forward, and I can use them into my employee development. When I look around my rooms, I see a lot of gray hair. I'm 50 years old. I know my sun is setting. There's a lot of guys out there. So I want to use all these guys to come up into our system and understand who PHI is so that we can use them for our retirement folks that are going to be happening in the next 5 years. That's my goal. Look 5 years down the road. So in late March of 2020, we had COVID pandemic, the collapse of the oil and gas industry. We really need to take a look at ways where we can be more efficient while maintaining our core values here at PHI. 2020 has been full of challenges that nobody expected. I've always said you can either sit there and do nothing, or you can adapt and be proactive. And I think we really adapted and we're proactive through this. So since 2014, PHI hasn't hired any A&P mechanics, any sheet metal mechanics, any avionics technicians for the downturn of the industry. About 2014 is really where we tailed off really quick. And we were hiring around 100 mechanics a year prior to that, right? So 2013, I think we hired like 87 A&P mechanics. The year before that was over 100 mechanics. And then all of a sudden, somebody shut the faucet off, and we had to start adapting. So 2014 was the last good year. Haven't had any real growth in the Gulf of Mexico in our industry since then. What we're doing now is since the midsummer of 2020, we're really starting to see a flight tempo increase in the Gulf of Mexico. From where it was at earlier in 2020, right? I mean, we forecasted a 50% reduction in flight in early 2020. We had to make some drastic changes. We made our changes, and now we're going forward, and we see our flight tempo increasing, and we needed to make some changes. So this decision led us to reinstate a very successful program, which is our A&P apprentice program. At first, we all decided we were going to do 4 A&P apprentice positions at our Houma facility in Louisiana. And when we sent out the external and internal job postings for those 4 A&P apprentice programs, we were shocked by the response that we got from the community, because we weren't offering housing, we weren't offering rotation. It was 5 and 2 in Houma, working from 3:30 in the afternoon to 12:30 in the evening. So we started looking at our applicants, and we had some really qualified people that we thought, by going through the interview process, we had over 80 applicants for 4 positions. So we really started thinking the job market is not the same as it used to be. So it really got us thinking some more. Maybe there's more of this that we can do in different areas and bring on more A&P apprentice. And we're looking at those locations now. So we advertised. We had originally advertised for 4 positions, and we ended up choosing 5 because we had 5 really good candidates that everybody really liked. So we offered. They all accepted. Their first week at PHI, Justin is my maintenance training standards manager. We developed a courseware, we developed a timeline, we developed a plan on what training we were going to give these individuals from the start. And they had a 5-day in-dock class in Houma, Louisiana, and we went through our basic indoctrination for PHI maintenance. And we walked them through our safety management system. We walked them through our general maintenance manuals, how we maintain aircraft, what's our policies, what's our procedures. We went through, I've drawn blanks, our policies, our procedures. We walked through
human factors, maintenance, resource management, general aviation things, because even though these guys had some experience with working with tools and being in the oil and gas industry, most of them have never seen a helicopter in their life. So, you know, that was part of their indoctrination, which is a little different from our A&P mechanics, where we had to give them some general background knowledge for aviation, helicopters, this industry, the safety aspect, the integrity needed, you know, to be in this business. And it lasted about a week, and then on the end of their week, you know, they started doing a little bit of on-the-job training for their daily duties.
So, you know, it was important for those guys to set the foundation for them. This is what your expectations. This is what we want for you, and this is what we expect from you. Sorry. Currently, they're you know, they've been in it about 3 months now at PHI. All of them are performing extremely well. They're going through performance reviews, bi-weekly performance reviews by their lead mechanics. So far, all of them have been performing as expected, and it's really been a positive outcome for us. These guys are working towards, you know, their duties include aircraft washing, helping the mechanics tow aircraft, remove cowlings, those types of things. Really, we're gauging, can they turn the wrench? Can they identify what they need to do? Do they think about it? Or are they just, you know, not prepared for this industry? So these employees will continue to learn at PHI, the culture, the policy, the procedures that we do over the next 3 months to ensure complete understanding and commitment before moving forward. Our goal is to build a solid foundation for these individuals as they begin their A&P apprenticeship program. It's going to be a structured approach to develop these individuals as they progress through the program. We conduct meetings on a monthly basis with our maintenance managers to ensure that we're not missing anything. We're revising, we're changing as we go, and we're documenting it as well. The lead mechanics work with these individuals. They're assigned a mentor that works with them on the aircraft, demonstrates how to perform the maintenance, where to find the procedures, how to use the manuals, how to use our MRO software that we can track our maintenance, do our journey logs, do our technical logs. These guys are really in the pockets of a mentor and follow that individual around. Our goal is at 6 months, we'll start to give these individuals a little bit more of the duties of doing inspections. The mechanics will sign for their work. With those individuals, we have a process in our manuals that allows us to have that individual be responsible for his work, but it requires an A&P to sign off the work. PHI will, I'm getting off script here a little bit, Justin. PHI will pay for their books, right? So I'm going to supply their A&P testing materials, their books, general airframe power plant, their prep software if they want to use software to prep to take their test. I'm going to give them the tools that they need to do their job. I think that's important, so that they're empowered to do it. These guys are part of our crew. They're integrated really well. Our mechanics talk highly of them. At first, we had a little bit of resistance. You know, you're just trying to replace us with cheap labor, and I can't, right? So all I'm trying to do is supplement the labor to take some of the mundane tasks that we have to do, fill wash bottles, tow aircraft, those types of things, and allow the A&Ps to do their A&P jobs. So it's working extremely well now. So some of the things they're doing: cleaning the interior and exterior of the aircraft, helping the mechanics by furnishing tools and supplies during the task, cleaning of aircraft parts and work areas, collecting fuel samples, servicing engine wash bottles, even getting in there now on the big task where we're doing inspections and we got to go in, pull a floor panel out of an aircraft so we can inspect the tub of it. They're in there helping remove those panels, doing the cleanup, and doing the airframe inspections as well, showing them what to look for, where to look. And what's unique is that as we move through this, we're going to have our maintenance training staff. We have components out of aircraft that we have training aids that we've built over the years. We're going to bring those guys into our formal maintenance classroom, give them airframe instruction, and also give them instruction on how to remove and install pumps, split engines, rebuild main rotor heads, transmissions, those types of things. So we have those work aids for those guys to tear apart and reassemble in accordance with the manual. So we expect this program to take about 36 months, maybe 48 months. We're still trying to figure out the exact timeline on that. Once these individuals are certified, if possible, we will offer them the positions here at PHI. If not, we'll help them with finding them job placement services. But that's our goal. We won't just shut them off as soon as they get their A&P certificate, say, sorry, we don't have anything for you. We'll help place them and get them where they need to be. So that's a high level overview of PHI and who PHI is, and also about the A&P apprentice program. So Zach, if you would, I'll turn it back over to you, and we'll open it up for questions if there's any.
Hey, John and Justin, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Hey, that was a great presentation. Thanks for being with us. We've got a list of questions here that came in, and we'll just get right into it.
Okay.
One of the questions came in. It says, can a person that already has an A&P certificate with no helicopter experience apply to the program in order to get helicopter experience and switch from airplanes to helicopters?
So great question. We would have that if we have an opening. PHI would bring that individual as an A&P. That's our goal, right? It's not to get the person the rotorcraft training. It's to get them to their A&P certification. That's the goal of our program.
Okay, fair enough. A lot of folks in the aviation communities out there are laying off folks right now, but there's still helicopter jobs out there. So I can see where some of the airplane mechanics who don't have a lot of rotorcraft experience would like to switch over.
Right, and we're actually hiring. I'm gonna put a little plug out there for PHI. If you go to phihelico.com, phihelico.com, and go to careers, we actually have 4 positions open in Houma, Louisiana, 4 rotations.
Okay.
4 A&P mechanics.
Very good.
And
okay, we'll get to the next one.
So yeah, so we accept people with no experience, no rotorcraft experience, 0 experience right out of school. We expect we're okay with somebody coming to us with 20 years experience. I think it makes a really good blend of a workforce.
Sure. Have you had any women apply for the program?
Not yet. No women apply for the program yet. We just started this a few months ago, but that is one of my goals is to bring more diversity into this industry.
Okay, for the ladies out there, there you go.
Yeah, we're more than willing. We just need them to apply.
Yeah.
Okay. With COVID-19 going on, are you doing any A&P courses online?
Not at this.
The A&P apprenticeship program.
Yeah, no, not at this time. I mean, we're not set up to do remote learning or distance learning. That's really we'll leave that to the professionals.
Okay. Do applicants get a reduced cost with the local DME for oral and practicals if they come through PHI? Do you guys have an inside route to a DME, I guess?
So no, at this time, we don't have an inside route to a DME, but that's what I was talking about a little bit earlier, where I'll pay for their software, prep software, I'll pay for their books, and I'll pay for their testing as well, for their oral and practical.
Okay, so you will pay for the testing?
Yes, sir. That's our goal, is to pay for the testing as well.
Wow, that's huge.
I want to give them every opportunity to make them successful.
Very good. How about this one? Does experience as an auto mechanic improve anyone's chances of getting into the program?
Absolutely. So this is a mechanic position, right? We don't expect people to have any aviation experience, but for people that are familiar with turning wrenches, that know tools, absolutely would increase your chance. It shows mechanic aptitude. It shows the want to be in this field of business, right? So you already start with quite a bit of an advantage.
Yeah. And really, that's how I started. You know, I was tearing apart cars in my dad's driveway. My dad is an A&P mechanic. He was always gone, so he always had the tools sitting at home. And when he was gone working, I was tearing apart cars and putting them back together using his tool set. And just like any teenage kid, what's his number one complaint? Where's my tools at when he gets home, right? So,
so to give a little more behind that in the last couple of questions, I did the same when I was a teenager. I rebuilding engines, went through auto mechanic classes. Someone told me aviation paid well, so I went to an aviation school. I got out of school and I got hired at PHI with no aviation experience. So we'll do everything from apprentice to no experience mechanics. We do have A&P mechanics, and we will be looking to expand the apprenticeship program.
Sure. Okay, how about this one? How many apprentices have completed the program? So let me break that down. Let me break that down a little bit more. Is there an attrition rate to the program? I mean, surely some people probably start but don't finish. How many? So
we just started.
What's your completion rate on it?
Yeah, so 0 completion at this time on this program because we started it 3 months ago, right?
Okay.
So 3 months into the current program, but years ago, we were actually doing this over in, we had a base in Theodore, Alabama, just south of Mobile, Alabama. And we were working with an A&P school there through an A&P apprentice program. And we would go there, find individuals that met our beliefs, our cultures, our behaviors, and we would offer them a job working at our Theodore base in the evenings when they got out of school. And we used that program, and every one of those individuals that went through that program were successfully hired by PHI.
Okay. Are you aware of any other companies that have similar programs in the rotorcraft community?
Not currently. I asked a couple of the guys I know, a couple of the other Avionic Solutions is a repair station here in town. He's doing something similar, but he doesn't have a formal program for it. So I'm he and I are pretty good friends. We're working together on that to see if I can get him lined up and get him heading in the right direction for that. International, there's some appetite for it in our New Zealand operation that we have. Trinidad, our director of maintenance in Trinidad is actually doing the exact same program that we're doing now. We've shared all of our information. Some of the things are a little bit unique to his regulatory rules, but he's doing it there in Trinidad.
Okay. This is a let me jump on that just for a second. One of the other questions that come in is what credentials do international candidates need in order to apply? Have you given that any thought?
We haven't got there yet. Having international candidates come in and apply for an apprenticeship program, you got to get into the work visas, those types of programs. We do something very similar to this over in Africa at our Ghana location. We have a company there that we work with. doing the exact same thing. But here we haven't had to address the issue at this time.
Okay. How about this one? Are there any disqualifying factors that would prevent a candidate from being accepted if he or she applies? Is there, I guess, are there any specific standards or
So
code of
the
ethics or
minimum,
anything that PHI has that would prevent someone from entering the program?
Yeah,
the minimum requirements, I mean, because we still have to follow the
the regulations.
regulations. So the minimum requirements would be high school diploma or equivalent, so GED, and you must be able to read, write, speak, and understand the English language. If you can meet those things, then you can qualify.
Right. I guess, and there are probably some other basic things too, like if I don't want to get into the laundry list of things that could prevent someone from getting a certificate, but if there are things that would prevent you from getting a certificate, you probably wouldn't be a good candidate for the program.
That's right.
Correct.
That's well said, Zach.
So this goes back to the international piece. Do you have any apprenticeship opportunities globally outside of the United States?
Currently, we have two apprentice working in Trinidad and Tobago, which is just north of Colombia in South America,
Right.
and they're currently full today. Will Gehring, who's our director of engineering and airworthiness over in Nelson, New Zealand, he and I spoke yesterday. This is something that he's entertaining, but he currently does not have any openings.
Okay, there's one that came in on the blog here. Let me see if I can read this. Got my old eyes on here. Is there a opportunity to do this in Atlanta at PDK?
No, this is dedicated to PHI and its aircraft here in the Gulf of Mexico.
Okay. And for one of the attendees, he would like to know, could you repeat again how many mechanics you have at PHI currently?
Yeah, so here in under my control, my watch, I have 162 mechanics in the Gulf of Mexico, and I have 85 mechanics in our Lafayette, or I say mechanics, sheet metal, avionics, and A&Ps in the repair station. Is 85 folks in Lafayette. But there's 600 in the whole maintenance organization worldwide.
Okay. And then there's one final question that came up. It said, and I don't want to put you on the spot here, but it's about the wages. Of course, everyone wants to know about the money. So can you give a ballpark figure of what an apprentice might earn?
Yeah, so I'll start with our certificated mechanics first, right? So we start our certificated mechanics with zero experience with an A&P certificate, about $26 an hour, give or take a little bit. The A&P apprentice program starts, depending on experience, depending on where you're at, it's anywhere from $13 to $17 an hour to start.
Okay. That's all of the questions that have come in right now, but this is what I want to do for any attendee out there who might think of a question later. You can always contact HAI and we will put you in contact with John and Justin. Or if you want to field it or send it to HAI and have one of us answer, we'll be happy to do that as well. Our president and CEO, Jim Viola, always welcomes questions to come into him. So you can send any questions that you might have to president@rotor.org, president@rotor.org, and then he will disseminate those questions out to us folks in the flight operations department, and then we'll send them out to the appropriate person. So don't hesitate to send any of your questions, follow-on questions to HAI, because we'll get those out there. John and Justin, that was a great presentation. I really appreciate it. appreciate you coming on board and fielding the questions and telling us a lot about PHI, the history, and all the things that you're doing. The apprenticeship program sounds great. There are other companies out there that are doing it somewhat in the fixed wing community. We do know that, but we haven't been aware of the rotorcraft community doing it until we made contact with you. So I really appreciate you coming on board and talking about that. So what I'd like to do now is, go ahead, John.
Yeah, thanks for having us. We really appreciate it. You know, I think we have to give back to the industry that we've all chosen to be a part of. To me, nobody made me become an A&P mechanic. Nobody made me work on helicopters my whole career. This is something that we all chose to do, and I think we need to pay it forward for the next generation. So we got guys taking care of everything that's in the Air Force here in the U.S. Thanks.
Okay, well, thanks for coming. Really do appreciate it, guys. If everyone can see the slide, we've got a couple of good events coming up. Next week, we have the FAA Administrator, Steve Dixon's going to be with us. So encourage everyone to get on board and come watch the webinar. It's going to be our President and CEO, Jim Viola, having a conversation with Steve Dixon. It should be a really good webinar. And then after that, you can see on December the 17th, we have decision making when the outcomes are not black and white. That sounds like a good presentation as well. So look forward to seeing everyone at those presentations. And thanks for watching this one. Chris, do you have anything else you need to put out?
No, you got it. Just if there's any contacts or requests or follow-up feedback, contact Jim at his president at rotor.org.